Hey guys, welcome to the video, and before we even get started, don't forget to hit that like button. That truly keeps me motivated to keep bringing you content, not just like this, but tutorials, hacking modding news, some projects, and all kinds of good stuff. Anyway, before we delve too much into this, let me set up some prerequisites. Number one, when I talk about jailbroken PS3s, I mean the ones that are on full custom firmware, not the hen exploited ones. You can put custom firmware on those, and because you can, unfortunately, there are limitations as opposed to the custom firmware ones. Next is that, and I can't stress this enough, there is a difference between the word best and favorite. I know some people are going to be looking at this video and just automatically assume that when I say favorite, I mean best. No, I promise, there is a difference between the two. Not only do the two words look differently, they're spelled differently, they are pronounced differently, and they have completely different meanings. I promise there's a big difference. I am covering why the PS3, specifically a jailbroken one, is my favorite of all time. And that everything I'll be going over here is strictly from the end user point of view, not from like a developer point of view, manufacturer, or any crazy thing like that. Strictly end user only. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, we all know about console and game hacking and modding and finding vulnerabilities and exploits in systems. It's been around for a long time. You might be a little bit surprised though to know how far back it actually does go, and it's pretty much almost since the very beginning. Some of the first and earliest arcade cabinets actually had a vulnerability in them, and kids found a way to exploit it using some thread, a drill, and a quarter. I think that's a whole nother video that I need to do, but we've come a long way from the quarter, drill, and thread method. And with 7th gen, we saw the culmination of all this reverse engineering when pretty much every single system was completely busted wide open and fully hacked. Now, this comes with some side notes. For example, the PS3s, as I mentioned before, not all of them can run custom firmware. Some of them can only run the hen exploit, but there's still tens of millions of units out there that can be fully jailbroken, so there's plenty. So these consoles over the years that have been fully jailbroken have a lot in common. They can usually on their own back up their own game media without the addition of any extra hardware. You can then play, at the very least, the digital version of these backups. You can also install homebrews, you can install emulators, you can make changes to the factory firmware, and even change the layout in some cases of the home menu, and the list goes on and on. There are some things, of course, that are specific to certain consoles, and this is where I'm going to point out the few things that, at least for me, puts the PS3 above all the other ones. And we're going to start off these points with the DualShock 3 controller. Honestly, this is probably my favorite controller of all time. It's simple, it's clean, it gets the job done. There's not a bunch of extra fluff. It doesn't need to be updated. It syncs up really quick, and these things are durable. As long as you're not yanking out the cord from the back or punching it like Baby Yoda, or just going all gorilla on it, these controllers can last you a very long time. The battery life is great. They can take a ton of charges before they need replacement, and they're inexpensive and fairly easy to replace. The controllers are inexpensive. They can be used on multiple platforms like PC and Android and others. So for all of these reasons, I prefer the DualShock 3 pretty much over any other controller. Yes, there are some that are fancier, but they're a lot more expensive. They have features that half of them I don't use, and so this is why I keep coming back to the DS3 controller and try to use it in any application where it allows me to do so. So let's move on to the jailbreaking itself and custom firmware of the PS3s, which is incredibly easy now. Back in the day, you had to take apart the system. You needed extra hardware like a PC, an E3 flasher, and just various tools. There was a lot of steps that were involved. Well, I mean, all of that is just gone now. It makes it so much more easier. You can use just the PC or a phone or none of those things. You could just have the PS3 connected to the internet, and that's pretty much it. Once the custom firmware has been installed, it's permanent, which is another great feature, unlike with PS4 and the Nintendo Switch, where you have to re-inject the exploit if the system is rebooted or turned on from an off state. You don't have to worry about that here. You turn on your PS3 and custom firmware is there. Also, depending on the custom firmware you use, you can put your PS3 into a sort of debugging mode or debugging state, otherwise known as DEX firmware. This is primarily made for developers, and it makes it easier for them to test things and make homebrews and test those homebrews and things like that. Really, it wasn't meant for the end users, but end users did use it for cheating. Either way, with a custom firmware like Rebug, it's very easy to go back and forth between regular custom firmware known as KEX and DEX. It can be done literally within like a minute. Custom firmware on the PS3 is also always up to date, which is a huge plus. When Sony puts out an update to their firmware, usually within a matter of hours, you will at the very least see a spoofer that will get you back online. Those who have a PS3 that's in DEX mode, they normally don't have to worry about that because DEX is usually immune to these updates. So there's a lot of benefits when it comes to actually jailbreaking the system and the custom firmware itself on the PS3. And of course, because you can take a jailbroken or modded PS3 online, since it's current, you run the risk of getting banned, just like you do with any other modded console. But with the PS3, it's fairly easy to get unbanned. You just need another console ID that itself has not been banned, and there's millions of them out there. You can get it from another PS3, or you can even get it, I believe, from a PSP. You can buy them on eBay, and right now they're dirt cheap. They're like $3 to $6 or $3 to $7 for one or two of them. And then spoofing that number in your system is very easy as well. There's multiple ways to do it. You can even set it up so that it automatically gets done for you every time you turn on your PS3. It couldn't be easier than that. Okay, so let's focus now on game backups for the PS3. Now, most systems, as I mentioned before, that are modded, you can back up the physical game of that system fairly easily. That's nothing new. But on a PS3, you can back up 3 generations of PlayStation console games. So it's not just PS3 games you can put into the system and back them up. You can also put a PS2 disc or a PS1 game disc and just press a couple of buttons, and that's it. You're done. The system will back up those games either to your internal drive or even straight to an external storage source if you choose it, if you have it set up. I mean, it's incredibly easy. It does it fairly quick. So the fact that you have 3 generations, that's a big deal, at least for me. Now on my Xbox 360, I can't play backups or make backups of a 5th generation Xbox. That's because one doesn't exist. Microsoft's first console didn't come out till the 6th gen. So with PlayStation 1, you have a whole entire generation of good to great games that you can either back up or play backups of. Now, even though we're seeing more emulation surface on different platforms for PS1, which is a good thing, because PS1 is native to the PS3, meaning all PS3s play PS1 game discs right out of the box, whether they're modded or not, you're going to run into far less issues when you play these backups on your modded PS3 because it's native to the PS3, which it is not on all those other platforms. So for me personally, this is a big bonus that you get with a modded PS3. So as I mentioned before, the PS3 is like other fully jailbreakable systems in that you can customize your home menu. You can change out the icons, change out the fonts. You can't really mess with the overall layout of the menu, but you can do all kinds of other stuff. You can make it so that games can load right up from the XMB using Webman Mod. You can even add DLC or customized content to just about any game. Here, as you can see, I've done it with Grand Theft Auto, where you can just eject modded eboots. You can inject mod menus and mod loaders, as well as themes and all that good stuff right from here from the XMB, which makes it ultra convenient. You can change the background of pretty much any game or homebrew that you hover over. You can change out the icon. You can even make an animated icon as well. You can make box art if you want, and not just for PS3 games, but PS1, PS2, and even ROMs. And you can change the music that plays over these games and homebrews when you hover them. The backgrounds can be changed as well. You can customize the not just colors of the waves, but you can even change the style of the waves in the background. You can even change those colors of those sparkles. You can change the boot up image and sound. It literally is just endless possibilities on what you can do. And the fun with the XMB doesn't end there, not even close. There are homebrews that allow you to use certain button combinations that add more functionality and features to the home screen of the PS3. You can bring up your temperature, your IP address, you can show your console ID, you can even install package files right from there with a certain button combination. You can even back up disk games right from the XMB without using a homebrew, and I'm not even beginning to scratch the surface of all the stuff that you can do. And let's wrap things up by going over an area that I think very few people give any consideration to when they're thinking about what is their best or favorite system, whether it's jailbroken or otherwise, and that is reliability, repairs, and maintenance. So for this, I'm going to focus primarily on the PS3 Slim models. I have two jailbroken ones, and I've had my hands on at least 300 to 400 of these Slim models. I prefer dealing with them than I do with the PS3 Fats, and that's because these Slim models are so easy to take apart and tear down. You can repair and or replace parts in it fairly easily or very easily. Most of the parts, with the exception of the motherboard, are really not that expensive, and they're easy to maintain. Now, this is a piece of machinery. Even if you take care of it perfectly, something can go wrong with it, just like anything else. You can buy a brand new car, and within a matter of weeks or months, something can go wrong. But there are normal things that go through wear and tear here. You know, the laser inside of the disk drive eventually will wear out. A hard drive will eventually fail. The thermal paste will need to get replaced and things like that. Most of the time, people just neglect their systems or abuse their systems, or just out of ignorance, they try, let's say, to jailbreak it and they don't know what they're doing at all, and then they end up bricking the system. None of that stuff is any of the fault of the PS3, of course, but overall, this is another reason why I pick the PS3, especially the Slim models, over some of the other jailbroken consoles, because that reliability and dependability is there as long as, of course, you take care of it. And that's pretty much it, guys. Those are just some of the reasons why the jailbroken PS3 is my favorite console of all time. Although in all fairness, a modded Switch is coming very, very close. There's a lot you can do with them, you know, from running RetroArch, and it works very well on it. You got open bore, you have all of these features and things you can do with backups. You got the HBG shop, and the list just goes on. And then you have that portability, and for me, that is a really big deal. I think once they get Android working on it properly, or they can get 3DS, 2DS games running on them. I think either one of those two things for me will put it right there, right next to the PS3 as my favorite consoles of all time. A jailbroken PS3 and a modded Switch will be my 1-2 combo punch that I will prefer over any other consoles. But for now, the PS3 is on top all by itself. For now. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Sorry this stretched so long. You know I appreciate you. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Much love going out there to everybody. Be careful, be safe, have fun. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.